Listen, learn, create your own destiny. Create the life you want. See the future, want the future, have it now. Welcome to the Manifest Change Podcast. And here's your host, Brooklyn Storm.
The power of my mind and my free will to do what I know is right. I trust myself. And what I love about this card is it feels really relevant to me because I don't know if you've ever been on the receiving end of intimidating behaviour or aggressive behaviour, but it does feel like your free will has been taken from you without your permission. It's not something you're giving away, is it? All of a sudden you can feel quite powerless when you're in an emotionally charged situation. So intimidation really is when somebody is coercing you or they're scaring you or they're making you feel really, really frightened into doing something that you just don't want to do for whatever reason. Maybe they're, threatening you and they're telling you, you have to give me all the money in the cash register right now or this bad thing is going to happen to you. Maybe they're standing over you. Maybe they're right in your personal space. Maybe they're shouting at you. They're examples. Aggression too is a real readiness to attack. Aggression is usually impulsive and usually quite emotionally charged, coming often from a place of anger. And it's this anger that's set somebody from 0 to 100, for example, and it's resulting in them engaging in really hostile behaviours. And, it can show up in all sorts of different ways. So hostile behaviours in the workplace, for example, can be things like receiving emails from people and they send you, 10 a day. I mean, that's harassment as well. But the emails, maybe they don't address you, maybe they're not signed off, maybe they've got intimidating language or veiled threats in them. If you don't do this by 5 o'clock, then this is going to happen, look out or else, all of those sorts of things. Bullying, spreading rumours about you in the workplace behind your back, criticising others behind their back. So maybe they turn up to a meeting and, everybody thinks that they're wonderful and they're all on board with things. And then after the meeting disperses, this person will run around and, criticise people behind their backs. I think at some point in your working life, I think most of us are probably going to be in a position where we've felt intimidated or we've felt on the receiving end of somebody else's aggression. And so what I would like to just talk you through today is that, it is highly uncomfortable because it makes you anxious. And, one of the definitions of anxiety is feeling very afraid, feeling very, very scared that something bad will happen in the future. So when you're coming to work and you're driving into the office or you're driving to, the shop or the factory or wherever it is that you work, and you've already got this big fear inside that something really bad, really scary, really frightening is going to happen. Let me just say a couple of things. Number one, I think you're so brave for getting in the car or getting on the train or getting on the bus and going down into that situation, given the level of fear that you're feeling. I just think you're incredibly brave for doing that. Nobody gets it unless they've had anxiety, I know. I think, the second thing is that what's going to be happening is you are going to be feeling a lot of very extreme physiological symptoms in response to going to work that day because your body is going to be doing its very, 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 very best to help you survive, to help you cope, to help you be safe. And so what happens is, your heart is going to start beating really, really quickly, and it might feel like it's going to beat out of your chest, like it's just beating so hard it feels like it's just going to burst through your rib cage. You might feel like you've got butterflies. You might feel like you really need to go to the toilet. You might feel like you're going to be sick. You might feel lightheaded. You're trembling. Your voice is shaky. Your face is red. You can't think clearly. You can't focus. You're so distracted because everything inside is moving so quickly. And the closer you get to the workplace, the more intense this anxiety can feel, and you do everything that you can. You think, oh, well, I want to try and meditate. Well, you've got no hope of meditating if you're already escalated in that situation. Maybe you think, oh, well, I'll do a breathing exercise. Well, a breathing exercise can help, but it's only temporary for some people. So the important thing is trying to identify a tool or a technique or a strategy that's going to work for you. And I'll share with you what worked for me in a minute. But one of the things that does work for me when I'm feeling anxious, and it's not a proper tool or anything like that, it's just something I do for myself, but I hold my breath. And, when you're doing breath work, depending on what tool or technique you're using, there's often a part of breath work where you sustain a breath or you hold a breath. So maybe if you're doing box breathing, for example, for those of you who don't know what it is, box breathing is when you maybe breathe in for 4 counts or 4 seconds, and then you would hold it inside for 4 counts or 4 seconds. You would exhale it for 4 counts or 4 seconds, and then you just let your body be at rest for 4 counts or 4 seconds. Called box because there are the 4 steps. That's just a simple way to remember it. But even in box breathing, there is a period of holding breath. And for me, holding breath really helps calm everything down. But it does draw my attention to a very strong, pounding heartbeat. But when I release my breath, I feel like I was calmer holding it. So I'll breathe out slowly, I'll breathe in slowly, and I'll hold it again. So that works for me. But I'll give you my law of attraction tools that I find more useful than breathing as well. I think, there's nothing we can do about other people and their behaviour. I think perhaps understanding it is really helpful. So we've just spoken about how you might respond or how you might feel when you're on the receiving end of somebody's poor behaviour. But how did that person arrive in the position of feeling like it was acceptable or feeling like it was okay to talk to somebody this way, to talk about somebody this way, to be intimidating towards another person? What is going on for them that in their mind they feel this is okay? Well, clinical studies have been done in the field of psychology, that demonstrate that, much of the time aggressive behaviour can come out of that other person's anxiety. So if you're able to, and I know it's hard when it's all happening, but maybe you can think about previous times when you've been in this type of position. If you're able to, maybe look beyond that person's aggressive behaviour and think about, what has been going on for them that you're aware of, because you'll be aware of some things and of course not others. But in a workplace, you might be aware that maybe there've been recent issues with that person's performance, or, let's just use that as an example. Maybe, people are aware that this person has been underperforming. There's been a performance review happened and this person's told others in the workplace about it and stuff like that. They've been quite open about it. And then for whatever reason, this person has just targeted you and, decided that you're the person that they're going to vent their anger and hostility and aggression towards. Well, understanding that, if they've got a context where they're under performance management, they're probably feeling very anxious and very threatened, and they're probably afraid of something. Maybe they're afraid of losing their job. Maybe they're afraid of being embarrassed or ashamed or guilty or humiliated or something like that. So you've probably heard the saying that the best form of defence is attack. Sometimes people do like to shift the focus off themselves onto somebody else. And so they'll do that by creating rumours. You know, we see this kind of stuff in magic as well, don't we? It's called distraction. It's where, you know, we get people to look over here at what's happening while the other hand is doing something else, preparing things for the magic trick. So sometimes understanding that there's often a reason of anxiety behind the behaviour of the person who's been aggressive can be helpful in terms of you developing compassion towards them, which is freeing for you. But that's probably high-level stuff that you can do after this has all happened. When it is all happening, there are some steps that you can take. I think, you know, you need to understand that what you think, what you feel, and what you do today creates your future. So stop. Give yourself some space. There is no urgency to act. The last thing that you want to do is react. When we react, we come from a place of emotion. And then what happens is we say things or we do things that we regret or that are used against us later on. So it can be really, really helpful to bite your tongue and come back to things later. Just because the aggressive person wants you to do something now doesn't mean you have to do it. Maybe the aggressive person is trying to scare you into giving them a refund right now on the spot, but you're unsure about that because you want a chance to check the file, you want a chance to speak with accounts, you want a chance to look at invoices and receipts. You need time to do that. Well, if a person's standing over you, you know, scaring you, and they're shouting and they're causing a real scene, and, you know, you're shaking and you're scared and you're not thinking clearly, my advice would be, you know, if you can get help, push a buzzer if you need to push a buzzer, but don't give that person the refund right then and right there, because you need time. You need time to sort things out. One of the things that you can do is just diffuse the situation by saying something to them like, you'll look into it. You can use a broken record technique where you just keep cool as a cucumber, even though you're scared out of your wits. You just be very cool as a cucumber on the outside, and you just repeat yourself very calmly, and you say something that resonates with you, you know, something like, that's not something I can do right now, but I'll follow it up for you. I'll follow it up for you. I'll follow it up for you. Thank you. I understand. I'll follow it up for you. Or whatever it is. I think every workplace has its own policies around what to say in those situations. But a broken record technique can be really helpful. Acknowledging that somebody's upset about something can be really helpful. Just say to them, yes, I can see that you're upset and I want to help you. Just say something like that. If you get into an argument with people because you're now feeling defensive because of your anxiety, so you want to defend yourself, that's not helpful, because all that's going to happen is you'll end up in escalating the fight or escalating an argument or triggering more aggravated responses from the other person. So just try and give yourself some space, give yourself some time, tell them you'll get back to them by close of business tomorrow, something like that. There's no urgency for you to act. Okay, that's probably the worst thing you can do, in my opinion anyway. Feel free to say no if something is not best for you. You know, if you're going to experience a consequence as a result of giving in to this aggressive person, don't do it. You know, really think if it's not right for you, don't do it. Now, if you've got time, let's say this is an ongoing situation. Let's say this isn't just a random person getting angry at you at work. Let's say that it's a very squeaky chair, isn't it? Let's say that this is an ongoing situation with a team member or a staff member or a colleague at work, and you're getting anxious about it. And every time you've got to open your email, it sets off your anxiety. Every time it's Sunday night and you've got to go to work on Monday morning, you can't sleep because you're worried about this person. You lose your weekends to worry about this person. Here is what to do. Step 1, get a piece of paper and a pen. And you can do this anywhere, but I think do it before you go to sleep at night or do it first thing in the morning. But what I want you to do is at the top of that piece of paper, write the situation. Okay, you don't have to put it in much detail, but just write the situation out. Now, after that, you're just going to take your pen and you're just going to say, I believe. And you're going to write down what you believe. So write down I believe statements until you run out of I believe statements to say. Once you've done that, you'll probably see, as you're in the process of writing, you'll probably see that some of the things that you're worried about aren't really things and that they're not as big on paper as they were in your mind. And so you'll start to feel better just from doing that first part. But the next part is to say what you'd rather believe. And so you'd write out as many statements about what you want to believe or what you prefer to believe about that situation. And then when you've done that, you feel even calmer and you feel better. The reason that these steps are effective is because they get you into alignment. And when you're aligned, you're coming from a place of your true self. You're operating from that place inside that feels right for you. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. You've just stepped into your truth. You've just stepped into your power. You've just realized that you're okay, that you're fine. The next thing that you want to do, and this is more a reflection for after the situation has resolved, is you want to identify the lesson or identify the lessons. Okay, because what we want to try and do is not leave it as a yucky situation in your mind that you want to try and forget about or you don't want to give any attention to, or maybe you want to suppress or something like that. It's more helpful to extend what's happened by looking at it in terms of what is the lesson for me here. Because when we look at lessons, we grow. And in Law of Attraction, you're on a journey of growth all of the time. So look for the lesson and write it down somewhere. I mean, you'll remember it because once you've learned a lesson, it's very hard to unlearn it, but write it down somewhere. And then after that, step 5 is to give thanks for the lessons and give thanks for the opportunity for growth. You know, understand that this has put you on the right path to your own development and healing, and be thankful for that. So I've got an example here. Just using what I've done is some of the DMs that I got on Instagram about this, I've just kind of put myself in the position of the people who've written in, and I've just created a set of statements just to give you an example. So this scenario is for somebody wanting a refund. So somebody's wanting a refund and they've been harassing this poor lady for the last 3 or 4 days. They keep phoning her up, being abusive on the phone, they're threatening to come down to the workplace, sending abusive and hostile emails and things like that. So if we do step 1, we do I believe, this is what I imagine some of the statements could be. I believe something bad is going to happen to me. I believe she'll get angry and want to confront me. I believe when I'm confronted, my anxiety will be so high that I won't be able to defend myself, and that despite being in the right, the other person will get what they want at my expense, and that's not fair. I believe she doesn't have respectful boundaries. I believe she threatens me. I believe I feel threatened by her. I believe she's angry about the money. I believe she thinks she knows that she's right. And, you know, she might upset me or she might coerce me into doing something that feels wrong for me. So that's some examples of I believe statements. And some examples of I choose to believe statements. I choose to believe actually that I stand in my power and that my power is in my truth. I choose to believe that I've behaved professionally. I choose to believe that I'm following processes and procedures. I choose to believe that I'm acting in accordance with the policies and procedures of the company. I choose to believe that I'm behaving in an ethical way. I choose to believe that I no longer tolerate aggressive behaviour toward me. I choose to believe that I am a good person. I choose to believe that things can be resolved amicably. I choose to believe that there is a lesson here and that the lesson is for my highest good. Okay, so then step 3 is, okay, feeling more in alignment. So if I look at these statements already after doing that, I choose to believe, I imagine this person will feel more in alignment because she's taken back some of her power now. She's feeling like she's more in control because she's lined up again. She's tapped in again to the things that are important to her. She's coming back to her values. Number 4, identify the lesson. Well, the lesson here for this person could be to trust herself, to trust that it's okay for her to say no, to trust that it's safe for her to look within for her peace of mind. Maybe she'll say that it's okay for her to do whatever she needs to do to remain calm and balanced. Maybe the lesson is that there are going to be aggressive people, but she can handle it better when she's coming from a place of alignment. Number 5, give thanks for the lessons and grow from it. Well, kind of covered that, but maybe she could give thanks for the lesson and moving forward, realise that she doesn't need to have this physiological reaction, that there's nothing for her to be afraid of in terms of her work. But I think beyond that, I think it'll be helpful for her to understand that that big physiological response that she did have was very normal and very natural, and anybody would feel like that if they were feeling like they were going to be involved in a fight or a challenge, or they were feeling threatened or vulnerable. And I think normalising that is really, really important. But in saying that, it's also good to understand now that those feelings have come because there was misalignment between what was happening out there in the external world and what was happening in the internal world for this person. So doing that work around beliefs and values and operating from a place of beliefs and values absolutely helps you to calm down when you're feeling anxious. Okay, so I hope that has been helpful. The affirmation that I've put together for you today is simply that I trust that things are happening for my highest good. And that's come about because I want you to have the lesson from it so you grow. So the affirmation again is, I trust that things are happening for my highest good. I trust that things are happening for my highest good. And guys, I would love to hear your feedback on this. I would love you to try. Next time you feel anxious, please come back to this. You know, tag a friend who you think could benefit from hearing this. It's not psychology when we're talking about these processes here, but I think it's very, very powerful. And I would love for you to have a go and just see if it's going to work for you, because really your wellness is the goal for everybody. It doesn't matter what discipline you come from, your health and your well-being is the goal, and not everything works for everyone. And we want to expose you to lots of different tools and techniques and approaches so that you can have empowerment to find the things that will work for you in different situations. And maybe this will be one. You never know. It is what works for me. I'm a psychologist, as you know, with nearly 20 years experience, but this is what works for me when I get anxious or when I feel intimidated by somebody. Okay, and also in case you're interested, the Manifesting Made Simple, a practical guide with real life stories, is now available on Amazon, which is really, really cool. It's in print and in digital copies, and for the first 48 hours, so from tonight at 7:00 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for 48 hours, it will be free. So if you want a copy, please let me know. Send me a PM or put a comment on the podcast here and I can add you to the list so that you get the link for the free copy. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. For any of you who are practicing law of attraction and you want to incorporate it into your existing coaching practice or psych practice or counseling or social work practice, that's cool. We have our practitioner training programs opening on the 1st of January 2019. So if you want more information about those, please let me know and I'll be happy to get you some enrolment details. And lastly, just a final little thought. Somebody shared this pearl of wisdom with me during the week, and I did put it on my Instagram, that basically it says, karma doesn't forget an address. Maybe I should have listed that as the affirmation. It's not really an affirmation, is it? But yeah, karma does not forget an address. So I'm sure some of you can take comfort in that. Thank you so much for listening. I love having you here. I love doing these podcasts. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. It was so nice to spend time with you again. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening. Take steps now to manifest the life you want by checking out the show notes. If you've loved this episode, leave a review on iTunes. Here's to manifesting change.